In this segment, I'm going to talk about choosing the different fabric choices and show you how that affects your embroidery design. And we have a tool up on the toolbar at the top that says Select Fabric. But you also have the ability to choose your fabric every time you start a new design. And I'm going to go ahead and choose New Design now. So the first thing that comes up is your fabric selection choice. And I'm just going to minimize this and show you that there's sort of general settings. So you have embroidery smooth, embroidery ultralight, embroidery light, embroidery normal, light, embroidery normal, and embroidery heavy. And underneath each one of these choices, if you expand it, you have the different types of fabric that would be under that sort of category, I guess. So embroidery normal and cotton, and say next. And what I'm going to do is just choose to open up an existing embroidery design, this one of this butterfly, and say open. And so I'll put that onto my screen, the butterfly, and say finished. Now a couple other things I want to do just to help with the demonstration is I'm going to select all the objects, and you can see that they're all set right now to have a red fill and a red outline. And I'm going to turn the outline off just by coming over to here and left clicking on the upper left corner of the square, and that turns the outline off. So I just get the satin columns without any run stitch outlines, and just make it easier for us to see what's going on. And I'm going to make it a little bit larger so we have some nice sort of decent satin stitch columns to stitch out. And so this is based upon embroidery normal and cotton. And if I choose my slow redraw tool and turn it on and get it to start sewing, I can basically see the way the embroidery is going to go. So it looks like it does sort of like a single ply of underlay and then a zigzag satin stitch on top, and you can see the way the design is going to sew. And then it's doing that's actually a zigzag underlay, and then the satin columns coming on top of that. So because of the choice of fabric, that's the way this design will sew. Now I'm going to go ahead and stop it and come up here and change the fabric choice. So instead of going with embroidery normal, what if I went to ultra light, embroidery ultra light, and I'll just go to even just what's known as standard ultra light and say OK. And so if I take a look now at slow redraw and watch it sew, you can see that right away it just starts laying down the stitches. It's not putting any understitching at all, and you can sort of tell visually that the stitches have been made to be much more separated or opened up so that it's very light stitching. It's going to use a lot less stitches to fill in the design with this design than it did previously, and there's no underlay, so there'll be very little support for your stitches. But there are different styles of doing embroidery, and so every time that you change your fabric settings, so if we go to embroidery heavy and choose something like whatever, linen or lycra, so a stretchy, thick bathing suit sort of fabric, say OK, and then choose slow redraw, we'll be able to see the changes in the style of underlay and stitching again. So now we have what looks like the center run and the zigzag. That's actually probably the stitching. It's probably meant to be made very open here. No, that is underlay, yeah. So we can see that it's adding in the zigzag underlay and the satin column. So quite similar to embroidery normal in this case, but nevertheless, every time you make a change to the fabric, the software is going to change the style of stitching that is applied. So maybe we'll do it one more time. So choose a new fabric, embroidery heavy, we've done embroidery normal, why don't we try embroidery smooth and try something like, I don't know, fleece, and say OK, and then choose slow redraw and see how it stitches out again. So it's doing a center line, and it looks like it's now doing an edge run, so it's going on both sides, and then a satin column. So instead of using a zigzag underlay, it's using an edge underlay. And these are choices that have been predetermined based upon fabric and the feedback from the designers that use the software. So that's a little bit about how to change the fabric and why you would want to make changes to the fabric choices.